Welcome to Real Estate on the Rocks, where you get top shelf real estate conversations served straight up, never watered down. Here's your host, Dave Snowberger.
Like the man said, it's time for another episode of Real Estate on the Rocks. I've got Marshall Tucker pop-locking and dropping over here to the intro music. Then we've got the new guy, James Mendez, back in the studio
What's
today,
going on?
Dropping the ball, erasing previous episodes. So
it's the board.
Basically,
Technology.
take two. All right,
The better take.
Yeah, the better take. Here we go. Today, we're talking about, once again, failure, right? And so why most people are afraid of failure. What does failure, I can't say it, failure. And so, Marshall, we had a discussion earlier. We had some things that agents say to us all the time when we're talking to them, and the reasons why they're quote unquote, air quotes, failure. You know, what is that? A lack of what?
Why are you failing? And probably what they're going to turn around and tell you is leads,
Tech.
don't
know enough people.
money.
Time.
Oh, sorry, James.
I thought so.
James came in with a punch, bam.
James,
Little alley-oop real quick.
yeah, came in there with a slammed up time. So, yeah, I mean, so those are the things. Leads, they don't have the money for tech. They don't have any money for leads. They don't know enough people. They're new to town, or they just don't have enough time because maybe they have a part-time job or they have to do other things to make the ends meet, whatever it is. So whatever that is, what it looks like is basically what it boils down to is all those things are resources, right? And so resources have no bearing on your success. I'll say that again. Resources have no bearings on your success. Damn. Now, being resourceful does. Knowing how to get business, knowing how to go out and get leads, knowing how to utilize some avenues of tech out there that aren't considered, I guess, high tech, but are still tech that can help you along in your business and supplement your business, right? And so how are you going out and being resourceful, meeting more people and getting them to know, like, and trust you? Because that's the only way people are going to do business with you is when they know, like, and trust you. So knowing more people, being able to serve more people, you'll be able to do more deals, right? I lack money. You need zero money to get started in this market. All you need is, well, you have to have money for, obviously, if you've paid the price of admission, if you've gotten your real estate license and you're a member of a board and then you belong to an MLS, more than likely you're out of cash by now. But,
Charge cards maxed out.
right? And so you can really start with the avenues of doing this, which we talk about all the time because our podcast is geared at the agents that are a little bit newer to the business, returning to the business, or maybe not having a lot of luck after a year or two in the business, right?
Yep.
And so money is not really, nothing you do is predicated on money. So the leads are there. So if you want to look for sellers.
Look for sailors too.
If you want to look for sailors, you're on the wrong podcast. But if you need leads for people that want to list their homes, obviously the avenue you take is for sale by owners, right? And so you would call them until you get somebody to take an appointment with you. You know, and I mean, that's really what it is that you do that over and over again until you hone in on your craft so well, you know your script so well, you know how to handle objections that all the FSBOs are going to give you the same top 5 objections. You're not going to get anything new that we haven't heard 100 times. You know, You're going to get the same thing over and over. That's why we recommend scripts. Well, I don't like scripts. Well, tough.
I don't like money.
Yeah.
Said no one ever.
Yeah, said no one ever. So, you know, it's, well, they're just not me. Okay, well, then take them, read them, and make them you. That's the whole part about scripts, is just to give you an idea of what you are going to say. Guess what? Scripts are free.
Yep.
If you've got an internet connection, scripts are free because Google gives you puts everything at your fingertips. I mean, we're in the information age. All the information is out there. Right? And if you can't validate the things that we're saying about calling for sale by owners, or you have, you know, obviously you've gone through the motions, you have the MLS, now you can learn how to work expireds. You can learn how to work withdrawals. You can go to YouTube and Google plenty of videos working with expireds, working with withdrawals, you know, and that costs you zero money. It just costs you a little bit more time to take all that content in so you can, you know, package it up and use it however you want to use it. And so you really need to get comfortable being uncomfortable having these type of conversations with for sale by owners, expireds, and withdrawals, right?
Yep.
And then if you don't want to take that route and you really want to work with buyers, guess what else you can do that's absolutely free to you?
Open house.
There you go. And so we've solved that one for you. So that's about being resourceful, is digging down deep into the other resources out there that are free to you, that don't cost you money and don't take a lot of tech. And you don't have to know anybody. You can just put all those balls in motion by just being resourceful. And they say if you want to take an island, Tony Robbins quote, I think Gary Keller, I think that's his name, repurposed it and said something in one of his books, either Shift or The One Thing, was if you want to take the island, you need to burn the boat, right?
Wow.
So if you're going to get there,
That's sink or swim.
there's no going back, right? So if you're going to be a realtor, don't do all these other things. I realize that some people have to have the means to pay some bills while they do it. Always use that as a stepping stone. Have an exit plan to get into real estate full time if you want to be a realtor, right? At least that's my thinking on it.
Yep.
Right. And so, we had this with Marshall. Go ahead, Marshall. Tell us your story real quick about burning the boats.
Well, rewind back, I guess it was almost 3-4 years ago now. I was working at my father's family restaurant, and I was working long hours, 55, 60 hours, but I was salaried, so I was very comfortable with the checks every week. And I was having some struggles in real estate and just couldn't quite seem to get a deal to stick. And Dave told me, he was like, hey man, you got to go all in. You got to cut that cord. You have a little safety net going on, and I think it's messing with you. So once I made the decision that's what I was going to do. I was going to cut the cord and move into commissions only. That's when everything started picking up for me. All the magic started happening.
Absolutely. And I would say that I have a similar story to like that, and I appreciate that story. And I was a big part of that, just having that conversation with you, getting you to realize the reason why you're not having success while you're failing, and everything we do is to fail forward, was you were failing forward slowly. Right. And so it was failing because there was no money to be had there, and you couldn't. Yeah, you had that crutch. You were complacent.
Not only that, but I was, spending 50 hours in the restaurant and then coming and trying to put that hours into real estate. I was overworked and underpaid.
Yeah, for sure. And my story is similar. I always bring it up like it's some sort of sob story that I only made $4,800 my first year. But however, that was me and a lack of being resourceful. I wasn't digging down deep because I was sitting on a little bit of money from selling some businesses. And I didn't take it serious, and I just thought that real estate was, an easy thing to get into, that everybody was going to buy from me, that almost like it was not a get rich quick scheme in any sense, but more of just kind of like I would see instant money.
Right.
People would start doing business with me right off the bat because I knew so many people.
I thought I knew all of Georgetown, so I did know all of Georgetown, but the problem was they didn't see me in that capacity of being their agent. They saw me as somebody that could cook some good brisket. And so I was able to turn that around with enough strangers to come back with my, track record of the people that knew me. And then they started trusting me.
Right.
So,
we were purposely, we lead Jim pretty purposely, it's like we did a lot of things. We called FSBOs. We went on FSBO appointments, when we got you going, and we went on the for sale by owner appointments, a lot of them together. So you could learn what I was doing, so we could kind of divide and conquer and take on more listings, which we did. We started listing 15 to 20 properties a month. And we were outshining everybody on for sale by owner. So that certainly worked, and I guess that's a great case of failing forward. Mine was that I had a little bit of money in the bank, and I was complacent as well. I wasn't failing, I just wasn't operating at a high level. And then when I started the bank account going from 6 figures down to, half that, down to 20,000, down to 10, it was like, man, you better get your butt in action, because if not, you're going to lose. You're going to lose a lot of stuff you
working
have.
at the restaurant with Marshall.
Right, and I'm going to have to go take a, and this is before I knew you, obviously, but I would have to probably go take a job somewhere, go back to sales, like in tech or something like that for Dell computers, or do something along those lines and pull in, 50, 60 a year, and kind of imagine what it could have been if I would have just done this or just done that. Instead, I got in action, right? I started being resourceful. I started digging down deep. I started doing open houses. I started door knocking. I started going to for sale by owners. I started working some expireds. I got the door closed on me constantly, but I started having more conversations around real estate. Every point I could get, I absorbed, I consumed, everything I consumed was real estate related. I had zero life. Now that may not sound like fun to a lot of people. However, that's almost what it takes to be successful in this business. And by no means am I successful yet, right? So we're doing it. We're making it right now. we do pretty well, but 96% of all businesses in the United States fail. That's leaving 4% that are making it. Now, there's quite a few of those that are not in the same business as real estate that are making it. I mean, I would say that, example, I got this off of Tony Robbins' stat, but like Lehman Brothers was around for 100 years, right? 100 years, have grossed over $1 trillion in volume of sales-wise. And they're out of business because they didn't keep up with current times, right? So if you're not always polishing your craft and taking in content and learning the craft and bettering yourself and failing forward, you can probably jump into that statistic of 96% of all businesses fail, because inside of that statistic of 96%, 87% of all new realtors fail within 2 to 3 years, right? And so we're small businesses. And I don't think a lot of people coming in the business realize that we are small businesses, and it's not the broker's responsibility to provide you with these resources. Now, if they have the resources, that's great. I would much rather see brokers push people to be more resourceful. So this conversation really is taking a turn from failure to being resourceful versus resources, right? And you get the difference, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so let's expand on that a little bit, James.
You think that it's especially starting out, that it's the lack of resources or the lack of tools and the leads, and just it's just that other thing, whatever it is, it's what's preventing you or stopping you from succeeding or getting all those deals. It's that flashy new CRM or that flashy new ads campaign, that new car, that will make you look better, the new suit that'll make you look better. It's always something other than the actual hard work and getting in, talking to people and having more conversations, which are literally the opposite of what takes you from a distraction to implementation of what you're learning.
Right. If I just had a shiny new CRM that did lead generation, if I just had $1,000 a month to pay for that,
it just magically fill itself up.
If I could just afford Zillow leads, if I could just afford all these little.
If I had more time
SOS.
to make those videos.
Yeah, SOS, shiny object syndrome, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what realtors really kind of have an attraction to, is like we're like mosquitoes around a zapper light. It's like we go towards the big bright thing that's going to make our future easier, when all we have to do is buckle down and realize that if you want to make more than the average realtor, which is, I believe, $30,000 a year,
something like that.
You hear different statistics wherever you look. You can look at NAR, and it's $26,000 a year. They probably upped the number so more people would get in and they were able to sell more memberships and whatever
Possibly.
else. I always think like that. However, it's what's the real national average? I hear that the national average for realtors selling homes is 2 to 4 deals a year. So they put the average at three homes a year. It's like, how are you paying any bills? Are there that many part-time agents doing that? Which you got to respect the game of the part-time agent. You got to respect the game of the part-time agent. However, I see a lot more people out there in the business that aren't part-time that are doing this every day. And here's the one thing about that is you can't necessarily, the day of age of the Facebook and Instagram, you can't tell really who's successful and who's not, because it looks like everybody's successful.
Yeah.
Everybody's a coach. Everybody's an entrepreneur. Everybody is just succeeding at a high level, taking pictures in front of Mercedes or Porsches or their flip houses or mansions or whatever else. And it really leads you to believe it's
that rental house with the lease car and the and the borrowed suit.
If that's your shtick, cool. I'm not hating on you for it. Sounds like I am, but I'm not. However, we're sending the wrong message to the industry. If you're a commodity and you're basically discounting yourself out of the business. Also, with a lot of what these people are doing, there's so many realtors around out there that are willing to, you've got the iBuyers discounting, making us more of a commodity as realtors. And if you're doing that, what leads to our future here, as a realtor? Have you asked yourself what's going to go on in 2 to 5 years? Not with the business. Real estate's not going anywhere. Everybody out there's trying to sell us that real estate's doomed and gloomed and the iBuyers are taking over.
No.
Zillow has said that their iBuyer program by the end of 2025, they want to be selling 5,000 homes a year. Nationwide.
So more than that in Austin alone.
That's not 1%. That's not even a micro percent of a 1%. That's nothing.
Yeah.
Zillow is not going to put you out of business. And so there's also the fear. So we have the resources, and then we have the fear of what's going on. I can't get listings. iBuyers just taking all the people in the neighborhood. Drive around your neighborhood and let me know how many open door houses you see.
You might see a bunch, but it's the same one that's been on the market for a couple of months.
Yeah, I'm not seeing many of them. So every once in a while, I see a goofy sign pop up, and it's always halfway knocked over because there's no one to tend to it. You know, it just presentation's not that great. The word's out. You know, the word on the street on the iBuyers is out. We just did a whole show on iBuyers. I hope people tune into that one. You know, iBuyers are not all they're cracked up to be. They do have a place in the market for the people that need instant liquidity. That might help them out. However, they are not going to be changing the face of real estate like everybody keeps saying there is. You know, you have too many people running around thinking they know what they're talking about in this business. And I might not know what I'm talking about either. However, my opinion is keep your head down, stay in your lane, and work hard, and you'll get what you need, right?
That's right.
So how many deals do you need as a single agent to be able to make a decent living? You know, if it's one deal a month and the average price point in your area is $250,000, that's $7,500 a month after splits, you're looking at about $5,000 a month. Okay, so that's $60,000 a year you could be bringing in.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to realize that that's not a ton of money left over if you have a house payment, a car payment, and then all the other expenses you have of a cell phone and taxes and everything else. However, if you don't do a ton of marketing and you're not afraid to get out and be resourceful, that's where you can keep a lot of money in the pocket and then start getting up there that after the second year, you could start doubling up and doing 2 deals a month.
Yep.
Now you're making $15K a month. $15K a month is a lot different from $7,500 a month, right? And so some months during those busy months, you'll be able to step it up to 3 or step it up to 4. You know, I wouldn't worry about building a team. I wouldn't worry about, I wouldn't worry about anything other than the first year or two of the whole thing, right? So you need to get out and learn the processes, do what you can to be successful in real estate. Stop blaming that it's your resources or the lack thereof resources, and get out and be resourceful. Go solve the problems.
No one else is going to do it for you.
Right. Stop talking about passive income. Stop talking about companies that are predicated on stock options or recruiting or things like this. Your job is to survive in real estate at first. Concentrate on the first thing. Any good entrepreneur knows that you concentrate on the one thing until you're successful. And then when you're successful, you can start branching out and start doing other things. Once you get to 25 deals a year, that's when it's time to look at maybe an assistant, a part-time assistant for you. You know, I'm of the belief that right off the bat, before you do your first deal, you need to have a contract coordinator lined up. Like that is not a smart business move for you to sit there and write contracts. Not write contracts, but manage contracts to close. You know, that's not the smart move for you to be doing all your own paperwork and everything else. We get a lot of people that sit here and say, I just had I had a coaching session with a girl a second ago, and we had talked about it, and she said, well, I make $150,000 a year and I have no assistants. And I'm like, just think of if you had an assistant, you can make $250 a year.
Yeah.
You can make $300 a year. Like, what are you talking about? That's the first thing I want you to do when you get off this call is call these people, you know, and get a assistant. Get a transaction coordinator and take that off your plate. That is not a smart business decision. Yeah. That's not being resourceful.
Yeah, true.
In my opinion.
For a couple $100 per contract, you could have leveraged that off the plate. Your time should be more valuable than that.
And it's gone. You'll pay 50%. Here, that's the thing. Here, this crazy stuff is that I talk to agents all the time they're fine paying 30%, 40%, 50% referral fees, but they won't pay $250 to $350 for a transaction coordinator.
That's insane.
But they'll give away half the commission just because someone handed them the lead or whatever else. Yeah. You know, and then, you know, I mean, it just makes no sense to me. It makes absolutely no sense. But I don't think people put it in that perspective. You know, as they're just happy for the business. And while they have the business, well, I'm paying a 50% referral fee or a 30% referral fee, so I can't afford $300 more.
Yeah.
You need to relook at that. You need to take a step back and you need to relook at that, like, and just kind of recalculate your terms there, because if you could unload that, they say the studies that I've read is that anywhere from 14 to 21 hours is what you spend doing the back end of a transaction. Right? If you could put 14 more hours a month towards more lead generation, what could that do for you? Yeah, if you could put 21 more hours, you know, and that's why on our team over here is that we've leveraged that off your plate. You don't touch any paperwork. You write the contract, you negotiate it, and then it gets turned right in over. Sometimes you have to answer some questions through the process.
Yep.
Completely normal. But you're not touching anything. Your job is to be focused on selling and serving. right? Serving people makes you sell and makes us more profitable, right? And so, do you think that I love cutting a salaried paycheck every other week?
Nope.
Absolutely hate it. However, I know that if I didn't, that would cost me
Exponentially more.
Yeah. Exponentially more.
Exponentially.
I like.
Exponentially.
We're not really good at big words.
Spinach.
Big words in math. Big words in
It
math.
grows a lot.
It's like it's really big. Anyway, so
The main thing is, I mean, people got to change their mindset. If you're leaving a work type job and you're coming over here expecting it to also be a job, that's where you're failing, because this is a startup. This is your business.
it's a business.
Yeah, so you're going to get what you put in, you're going to get it right back out. So if you're used to making a certain amount of money and you're used to putting out a certain amount of work for that, and that's always what you're going to get. Now that everything's on you and no one else is going to do it for you, and you get, paid by what you put into it, man, it's all on you.
Yeah, I catch a lot of flack for this one, and when I talk about it, and so sometimes I'm reluctant to bring things up, but however, I'll just take the gloves off and do it, is that most realtors, and it's not just realtors, it's a lot of startups. It's a lot of anything that takes you to launch your own business, is that a lot of people getting into that, and even entrepreneurs, they lack the business skills to run a business. They don't realize what it takes that goes into a business and what you have to do day to day. They don't realize it's all about the profit, right? It's not about Instagram posts. It's not about Facebook posts. It's not about brand awareness. You building your brand is something that's going around the industry right now that is being crammed down your throat. I agree with building your brand. However, it's not the most important thing to you the first year or two. Yeah. It's something that can you can dabble with in the back. You're in the back of the career while you're building it for the first year or two. But nobody necessarily gives a shit who you are. Yeah. Your job is to get people to know, like, and trust you, and do real estate deals. Help people where you can. The more people you help, the more problems you solve, the more deals you do, the more profit you'll have, the more it will repeat itself. Then it becomes repeatable. Then it becomes scalable. Everybody slow down and pay attention to the details of building a business. Worry about one deal at a time. Don't worry about multiple deals. Don't worry about building a team. Don't worry about all these things that are being crammed down your throat on every Facebook group, every Instagram post, everything. It's just complete horseshit. And it's a little frustrating when you sit here and you think about it, and just kind of like everything that when I have new agents come to me and tell me this or that, or they heard this and they watched a YouTube video of this, man, everybody's got opinions, and they pretty much always, I don't know if they're that great. I'll just say that. Yeah. I'm going on a little tangent here. However, I'm passionate about our craft and what we do, and I'm sick of people failing out of the business because they just won't listen. They would rather be an Instagram realtor than an actual producing realtor. It blows my mind that they would rather look good and want the pat on the back that great, they sold a house and here's all the pictures, whatever else, or blah, blah, blah. Now do that again for the next 20 years and call yourself successful. Whew. That's exactly what was told to me. Yeah. And so I took the advice. I backed off the bragging a little bit, the check me out. Now, that doesn't say that I'm not always on Instagram and not always on Facebook, but my content has changed. Yeah. My content comes more from contribution and more like, talking about the community and talking about what we do and everything like that. It's hardly braggadocious.
Yeah. And it's also not the primary thing you focused on when you're first starting out. You're not building your business by doing the long play and doing social awareness and building the entire brand. If you're not selling or staying in, if you're not able to even stay in long enough to do that. Right. Like you have to flip it. Yeah. Do all that stuff, but do that stuff, slowly but surely kind of build that stuff up. Connect with people. Yeah, my deal with the Snowburger Realty Group, why I opted to go that way, is because I grew up in this neighborhood, and I finally, after so much time, just decided to throw my name behind it. And I looked at all the successful realtors out there and really what the team names were and stuff like that all around the country, or big brokerages. I mean, Keller Williams, two people's last names, and that was really always the way you built a business, right? So was first name or surname one and surname two, and then you put them together, and then you've got a professional company. All the ad agencies, law firms, real estate companies, old school, they were all like that. Crazy. And so these days, if you want to say, Snowburger Realty, I've got a unique last name. Yeah. It's just unique. There's not another Snowburger around that I know of. Mm-hmm. Around here in Texas. I know there's some in Houston, and I think there's one other one in Austin.
well, obviously my sisters, but
I was gonna say family.
yeah, my family. But
Yeah,
other than that, I mean, my sisters are places all the time where they swipe their card or whatever else, or they just somehow their name comes into play and like, oh, is your brother Dave? You know, man, because I grew up here. I know a lot of people. I've been in business in the community for a long time.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we're trying to get out there. So I got away from the broker branded name. You know, because all I was doing was presenting the broker or, you know, pumping the broker all the time. And so I got into pumping my own name out there and everything else, and then got you guys to join me, and we all do that, and everybody wears the name proudly, you know. Yeah. And so
that's important, just not in the beginning, not when you're first starting out. Like, you didn't do that in reverse. That wasn't your first year or two in the business doing that. That came progressively as with the growth of you, your production, the team. Like, that was a tiered system.
Yeah, I was happy to be a part of JB Goodwin. I mean, I knew when JB Goodwin was the first brokerage I joined. I knew it by name because when we moved to Austin 30 plus years ago, JB Goodwin sold us our house. So I always knew the name JB Goodwin, and when I'd see the sign, our realtor's name was Jose Cuervo. And
Are you serious?
Yeah, he's still in the business. He's not with JB anymore, but you know, he's still in the business, and we thought that was the coolest thing because we were coming from Corpus Christi, Texas, you know, and we knew who Jose Cuervo was. We'd always go over to Mexico and buy the Jose Cuervo t-shirts, and we had the Corona shirts and all that stuff, all that, you know, and so it was kind of cool. And so I always remembered that, and I would see that he had market share. You know, when Austin was still small, there was a lot of market share there, and he still has a great agency. You know, I talk about him every once in a while. You know, I mean, maybe not that great, but I do talk about them, but I got a respect for them because they have 700-800 agents, you know, in Austin and through San Antonio. However, they didn't grow outside of that. So when Austin started getting really big and people started really taking space, and a lot of big box brokers started coming in here, JB got kind of pushed out and was known, you know, his market got smaller, it seemed, while the other markets got bigger. And so I decided to leave JB and join KW at the time, and KW was one of the smartest decisions I ever made to leave, because it really did. I got myself around some great people that were, you know, I was resourceful, and I went and I just surrounded myself with smart people that had market share, and I started doing exactly what they were doing, you know. Wasn't copying them verbatim. I was showing up to work. I was showing up to the office. I was putting in the time. I was working in real estate 40, 50 hours a week. I was working on the business instead of in the business, right?
Yep.
And so I started to scale, started to get bigger, hired an admin, met up with Marshall. Marshall and I started doing great things just as a 2-agent team and really going after it. And then we put some more people on the team, and, you know, and then we had failure, right? Yep. And then I would go through it too. It's like, well, I don't have enough leads for these people. We don't have enough tech for these people. We can't afford more tech. We can afford what Marshall and I were doing with one admin's salary, right?
Yeah.
And so we were failing there, and I wasn't being resourceful. And so I talk about ebbs and flows all the time, right? Ebbs and flows come with being resourceful as well. A lot of times you're open to a lot of things, you're chasing a lot of things, you're being resourceful, you're going out and making it happen, and then you go through a little burnout. Like, why isn't it happening for me? You have a little, you know, pity party, you know, and you're not getting right back on track. You don't get a listing, right? You prepare for a listing for a week or two. You go over there and you find out that one of your competitors got it.
Yeah.
You know, and that you never really even stood a chance. You were just there just to kind of use the person with other leverage to get them to discount their commission, maybe.
Yeah.
And so that's the only way you're going to beat me is discount my commission, right? Discount their commission, not mine. But you know, it was a whole lot of that. It was a lot of failure. And so growing over the past 4 or 5 years, I've been able to see a lot of the stuff. And this is all we're doing is taking our life experiences as agents and putting them back onto the air right here.
Yeah.
So. All right, everybody. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us this week. For Marshall, James, and Dave, we want to invite you to our Top Shelf Agents group over on Facebook. Just search that. I made it an open group for now so we can help grow this thing. I believe we're stalled out somewhere around 500 people. We'd like to get more people in.